Good morning, 8th graders. Today we're going to be diving into literary devices. We touched on it a little bit last week when we talked about metaphors and similes, so today we're just going to briefly add on to that knowledge and learn about some new terms. So today we're going to be addressing illusion, personification, imagery, symbolism, alliteration, and anaphora. There will be a short quiz at the end, so feel free to take notes that you will be able to use on this quiz. So, for our objectives for class today, after this lesson, students will be able to identify literary devices within the text. Students will be able to explain the effect of these devices, and students will be able to use poetic devices in their own writing. So, we got into this a little bit last week, but what is a literary device? Literary devices work to elevate the author's words in a way that creates deeper meanings than what you see at first glance. For example, Janet is so pretty and unique. While you could say that, you could also use metaphors and similes and say, Janet is like a model. She's a rose among dandelions. All right, so as a refresher for similes and metaphors, we are going to go over this bear's conversation. One of them professes, "You are as beautiful as a summer night," but is shut down when the other responds, "Stop it, you're a clown." Take a moment to identify which bear has used a metaphor and which bear has used a simile. How do you know? All right, so if you guessed that the black bear was using a metaphor, you are correct. We can see that as he is comparing the other one to a clown without using like or as. On the other hand, "You are as beautiful as a summer night" works to use as in order to communicate that this beauty is relative to a warm sunset. So again, similes are a comparison using like or as seen here. And metaphors are a comparison without using like or as. So to get into our first word for today, we are going to talk about illusion. So an illusion is a brief and indirect reference to a person, place, thing, or idea of historical, cultural, literary, or political significance. So illusions typically link concepts that the reader is already aware of. So if we're getting into some examples, I have Eddie is being such a Scrooge, and Amber's friends call her Einstein. Why is this considered an illusion? Well, by referring to you as a Scrooge, I am making a reference to the movie A Christmas Carol. If any of you have ever seen this movie, you know that Scrooge is a very grumpy man. He was not kind and he was selfish. On the other hand, when I refer to Amber as Einstein, one can infer that she is very smart, as Einstein is a very smart man. On the Instead of explicitly stating that each person is smart or mean, the author has chosen to awaken an idea that the reader already knows about in order to identify this person. So for this example, those would be Einstein and Scrooge. So let's practice. What does it mean if I were to say that Ali's smile resembled that of Mona Lisa's smile? Mona Lisa's on the left here if you need to look at it. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Mona Lisa is a well-known painting that is characterized by a woman that seems expressionless. If Ali's smile shows likeness to this, Ali must not be showing a lot of emotion. So our next term is personification. A tip for remembering what this one means is if you look at the first part of the word, it is literally the word person. So personification is assigning human or person characteristics to something that is not human. So have you ever heard someone say, "This food is calling my name"? What about, "My alarm clock yelled at me to get out of bed this morning"? If you haven't heard those, then I'm sure you've heard someone refer to lightning as dancing across the sky. In each of these cases, whether that be food, an alarm clock, or lightning, as readers, we are given a greater extent of knowledge to what exactly each non-human object is doing. So when I say an alarm clock yelled at me, it can't literally yell at me, but it gives me the image of a loud and lively interaction. And while the food is not literally calling my name, my want for it feels as though it is. In the same sense, when we say that our stomach is growling. By assigning these characteristics, we as readers can create an image in our mind of what it feels like is going on in the text. So our next term is imagery. When language appeals to the five senses in order to give the reader an idea of exactly what is being described, we're referring to imagery. So my teachers always used to say that imagery is like painting a picture with words. If we look at the picture on the left here, I mostly just put it in because I thought that these little descriptors were helpful in targeting what exactly imagery is. So when we talk about imagery and we're talking about the five senses, we can talk about auditory, tactile, gustatory, olfactory, or visual. So what we hear could be music, it could be noise, it could even be silence. What we touch or feel could be described by the texture, the movement, the temperature. What we taste, it could be sour, it could be sweet, it could be acidic, bitter, or salty. What we smell could be nice fragrances, it could even be bad odors. What we see could be colors, shapes, patterns, and size. So let's keep this in mind while we go into this next excerpt. So we are going to be locating the appeals to our senses. So I'm going to read it through once, and I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. And then we're going to go through it again, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight certain things that appeal to our senses. So, the minute the sliding doors opened, I was hit with a freezing cold blast from the air conditioning unit. Heading straight for the food court, the delicious aromas made my mouth water. A young boy ran past me, laughing as he shouted out insults to his less than amused older sister. As I stood in line, deciding what to have, veiled women in embroidered abayas floated by, leaving their perfumed scent hanging in the air. All right, so as we go through this, the first thing that stands out to me is a freezing cold blast from the air conditioning. So, in that sense, if we think back to that old picture that we just looked at, if we think about the tactile or like touch or feel aspect of it, there's temperature. In addition to that, if you keep going, we get the delicious aromas. So, in that sense, we're getting that olfactory smell. In addition to that, we have a young boy who seems to be running. He's laughing, he's shouting, seems a little chaotic. So we're getting a little bit of this visual on top of this auditory appeal. So as I stood in line deciding what to have, we have veiled women and we have embroidered abayas. So that is a visual appeal by leaving their perfumed scent hanging in the air. So lastly, we get that last olfactory smell. All right, so our next word is alliteration, the use of the same beginning consonant sound in a line or verse. So the most common one you might know about is probably going to be Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So what's the effect of alliteration? Oftentimes, by repeating consonants, readers are drawn to the words. So for example, if I start talking about something and casually start saying similar sounds, we notice it. For example, just then when I repeated the S's, you paid a little extra attention, didn't you? There is an emphasis on each one of those words. Take a minute to write your own sentence and try to stay away from common ones like Sally sells seashells. This is your time to pause the video and write down a sentence. Our next topic is symbolism. So symbolism is using images as a way to refer to another abstract idea. So for example, if we think of a light bulb, it could be a symbol for an idea, it could be a symbol for knowledge, while a red rose could be a symbol for love. So keep this idea of symbolism in the back of your head while we go through this poem. The Rose That Grew from Concrete by Tupac Shakur. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's law is wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else ever cared. So, do you think the rose is a symbol for love here? Symbols can be used in a variety of ways, and in this case, Tupac Shakur goes on to use the rose as a symbol for himself and the concrete as a symbol for the ghetto. He is stating that he has gotten out of the ghetto, he has grown, and he has made something of himself. By utilizing symbolism, there's an element of beauty to what he is saying implicitly. While he doesn't outright claim the rose to be himself, there's an obvious idea that the rose is not simply a rose. So, for example, we just learned about personification. So when we look back, a rose can't really learn how to breathe fresh air, and it can't really learn how to walk without having feet. So there's obviously something different about the rose in this story. So our last one for today is going to be anaphora. Anaphora is a repetition of successive sentences. And what I mean by successive sentences is If we look at MLK's speech here for I Have a Dream, this is one of the most famous uses of an afra. I will highlight it for you. I have a dream comes up in every line here. So as much as I would like to just read it to you to talk about it, I feel like with MLK being such a powerful speaker, it would be more beneficial to listen to him say it himself. So I got a short video for us here.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
All right, so when he begins each thought with I have a dream, he's creating an emphasis on each of his statements. Now, I've said the word emphasis a lot today. And what I mean by that is every time you heard him say, I have a dream, did you catch yourself paying a little bit more attention? Not only that, but he's creating this emotional appeal that seems to persuade and inspire. That is the last of the terms for today, so I will leave you with this. These terms are vital instruments in creating a piece of work that is meant to be interacted with. As a reminder, please complete our quiz for today. Feel free to use your notes, and I will see you tomorrow.